Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. Just going to give it a minute to let everybody in from the waiting room. Perfect. A few more coming in now. Okay, I think we'll make a start then. So, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, BREEAM version 7, Changes to the Land Use and Ecology section. If you've got any questions today at all, please pop them in the Q&A. We're going to have some time at the end to answer your questions, and you can find that at the bottom of your screen. It's with a warm welcome today to Tamsin, who's joined us to bring us up to speed on the changes in the land use and ecology section within the document. And she's a principal consultant in BREEAM science team and has a number of years under her belt in applying sustainability in the built environment. And she's worked at the Building Research Establishment for the last 11 years. So welcome, Tamsin, and thank you for joining us today.
Hi, thank you for having me. Yes, so just a little bit more about me. Tamsin McCabe, Principal Consultant for Natural Environment in the BREEAM Science team. Together with our external technical working groups and also our internal teams, the science team research and develop the criteria for all of the BREEAM schemes. The technical working groups are made up of various industry specialists, including experienced ecologists and assessors. So we don't just do it on our own, basically. We do get the opinion and input from various external people. I've been in this position for a year now, but have been with the BRE in BREEAM for nearly 12 years and worked in various positions in that time. I'm not an ecologist, but I have a strong interest in the subject and I'm extremely passionate about it, and I'm learning as I go. So just a quick overview of today's session. I'm going to give you a brief introduction to BREEAM for those who aren't familiar. We'll go through what the land use and ecology section does in BREEAM new construction. Then I'll get into the changes to land use and ecology new construction version 7 scheme for the UK. And then we'll talk about the GN 41 changes as well. And then after that, we'll do questions. So BREEAM, what is BREEAM? So for you, those of you who are less familiar, it provides a holistic sustainability assessment framework for buildings and infrastructure and provides a certification scheme for each life cycle stage of a building. A BREEAM assessment uses recognised measures of performance which are set against established benchmarks to evaluate the building's design, construction, and the operation, including refurbishment and fit-out phases. The measures used represent a broad range of categories and criteria, right from energy to ecology, and each category focuses on various sustainability impacts, including reduced carbon emissions, low impact design, adaptation to climate change, ecological value, and biodiversity protection. Integrating sustainability measures at the earliest possible stage of a project using the BREEAM framework enables reduced life cycle costs and increases in asset value, building user experience and health, corporate image, and ESG requirements, as well as risk mitigation. Today, we're talking about the new version 7 land use and ecology criteria from the UK new construction scheme, which is due to be released later on in the summer. So the land use and ecology category. This category encourages sustainable land use, habitat protection and creation, and improvement of long-term biodiversity for the sites, for the building site and the surrounding area. Issues in this section relate to the reuse of brownfield sites, identification of risks and opportunities to site ecology, mitigation and enhancement of ecology, and long-term biodiversity management. This category has two routes to demonstrate compliance. The credits available and the criteria are different depending on the assessment route that is being used. The foundation route is only available on sites that have been deemed to have a low ecological risk, and the comprehensive route is available for all sites and requires the use of an ecologist who meets the BREEAM SQE definition. The criteria and methodology used by BREEAM's ecology issues recognise best practice processes that can help achieve the government and industry aspiration to meet biodiversity net gain, so development that leaves biodiversity in a better state than before. And we promote an approach where developers work with local governments, wildlife groups, landowners, and other stakeholders in order to support their priorities for nature conservation. So just as a brief not necessarily brief, actually, as an overview of the summary of changes. So it's important to note that the focus of the version 7 update was actually energy and carbon. So that's where really big changes have been made. However, in this section and in others, we have put work into improving clarity and updating where appropriate if standards or benchmarks were out of date. This is the first big update since 2018. So there were things that definitely needed to be improved or updated. So the changes result mainly from feedback that happened via our pre-release consultation, which happened last year. So basically released our new manual to assessors, and then they gave us feedback on what they thought would need to change. And we also have numerous technical queries, which we've kind of gone through and reviewed to see what we might need to do the focus on. So people said that the section was overly complicated, particularly LUE02 and LUE03. People found that there was lots of repetition between credits. We also had feedback stating that our QA team were very reliant on the methodology, and our assessors felt that there needed to be more trust in the ecologists and their professional judgment. And internally, our team actually found it hard to QA. So there are a lot of issues which we have hopefully rectified. So we've streamlined the criteria while keeping the intent mainly the same for each issue. And therefore, really, there aren't any really massive changes to what we're trying to achieve. We've edited out a lot of the detail from the methodology and have tried to emphasize the ecologist's role in the criteria to reflect the expertise and the ability of the ecologist. We've also removed statutory obligations that were prerequisites for each issue. And this is based on feedback, as this is something that BREEAM shouldn't really be policing. BREEAM is designed, for the most part, to go above the regulatory minimum. And there's no other category in BREEAM where we require confirmation from a professional that the law is not being broken. So we felt that it's inconsistent to do that here, and this is not really our role. In the next few slides, I'll talk through some of the detail of the criteria and the changes relating to the individual issues. So the first issue we'll go through is LUE02, ecological risks and opportunities. So this issue is really important as it feeds into the rest of the issues in this category. If it's not achieved, the rest of the credits are not available. The first credit is survey and evaluation. The requirements here are that a suitably qualified ecologist needs to carry out a survey and evaluation for the site early enough to influence site preparation works, layout, and when necessary, strategic planning decisions. And this survey and evaluation should be determining the site's ecological baseline, including the current and potential ecological value and condition of the site. Oh, I need to.
Sorry, Tasman. Could you
Yep.
change the slide? Perfect. Thank you.
Sorry. Yes, so the current and potential ecological value and condition of the site related areas within the zone of influence, the direct and indirect risks to ecological value resulting from the project, and the capacity and feasibility for enhancement of the site's ecological value and, where relevant, the zone of influence. In terms of the determining ecological outcomes credit, the ecologist should collaborate with appropriate project team members, and that would be landscape architects, the architect, M&E potentially as well, and sharing relevant information and recommendations from the survey and evaluation to influence project design as well as decisions regarding site preparation and construction works. The ecologist, with full support from the project team, should collaborate with representative stakeholders such as wildlife organisations or local government early enough to influence key planning decisions. And this should be where it is deemed necessary by the ecologist. So this is up to the ecologist if they need to collaborate with these representative stakeholders. And then the ecologist should identify the optimal ecological outcomes for the site and identify measures to achieve these outcomes in line with the collaborations that they've previously undertaken, as well as the mitigation hierarchy. The ecological outcomes for the site will involve both protection and enhancement measures, but need to fully consider the end building's limitations, and this is why the collaboration is important. A good example of this would be for a site that has a security function. There might be many limitations in terms of planting and attracting certain types of wildlife. So this needs to be explored with all parties early on. Or it might be that actually the ecologist is experienced with this type of development and may know ways around lighting issues, for instance, and may be able to inform the lighting design to meet project requirements, but also bring about positive outcomes for nature. Or it might be decided that it would be not appropriate to try and attract wildlife, and so those types of measures would not be proposed at all. For the exemplary level credit, wider site sustainability, when the team is looking at the optimal ecological outcome for the site, they should consider the potential for ecosystem service related benefits. This would be reviewing various options for natural-based solutions and how they could be incorporated into the design. And these would obviously have other sustainability benefits, as well as the good outcomes for biodiversity. And one option would need to be implemented as a result of the appraisal. So changes here include we've just swapped around some criteria as it fits more neatly into the second set of criteria. And we've removed a lot of the methodology where there were quite detailed requirements relating to site survey, for instance. I think this originally was probably intended for guidance purposes only, rather than to form the requirements. And we feel that actually it should be the ecologist that should be using their own professional judgment in terms of how they go about meeting the requirements, rather than us listing out all the detail of what they should be doing. So the intent of LUE 03, managing impacts on ecology, remains the same. the aim is to avoid or minimize impacts to the site ecology during the site preparation and construction phases. The prerequisite to achieving any credits in this issue is that LUEO2 has been achieved. The first credit is implementation of measures on site, and this is looking at the measures that were agreed for LUEO2, determining the ecological outcome requirements and ensuring that they have been successfully implemented during site preparation and construction. It's mainly concerned with protection and prevention measures, as LUEO4 looks at the enhancement. And we require that an ecological clerk of works or biodiversity champion is appointed through the process, and that there is a process during handover to ensure that the measures are communicated, understood, and adhered to, and we require that the measures are monitored to ensure that they are effective. So the second element of this is no net loss, and obviously that means that there's no overall loss of ecological value. For BREEAM purposes, this has to be actioned on site, completely on site. So this differs slightly to the requirements of BNG and also in the next credit as well, which I'll talk about a bit more in my next slide. And the ecologist should confirm the outcome for this, and they could use the statutory metric to evidence that. Key changes in the criteria. So we've rewritten this. We've done a lot of work on this issue to make it a lot clearer what we're asking for. And we've also redistributed credits here. So previously there was 1 credit for the implementation of measures on site and 2 credits for no net loss. And now we've got 2 credits for implementation measures on site and 1 credit for no net loss. And this is to try and emphasize that the importance of implementing the measures to protect, minimize the impact to biodiversity or ecology on the site. And we've also removed a reward relating to minimizing the loss of ecological value, as we feel that the minimum requirement should be no net loss on site rather than just minimizing the loss of ecological value. And we also want to encourage projects to effectively implement the measures to protect wildlife on site or ecology during preparation works and construction. So the next issue is LUEO4, ecological change and enhancement. And just to reiterate, the purpose of this issue is to implement the enhancement and creation measures that were agreed for LUEO2. The criteria relating to implementation of measures on site in LUEO3 is a prerequisite to achieving any credits for LUEO4, and the aim of this is to ensure that the mitigation hierarchy is followed for the project. So before they can do any enhancement, they must have protected ecology, reduced negative impacts, and done any compensation measures on site as far as possible. And the first credit here, ecological enhancement, requires the implementation of the measures that were proposed by the ecologist. And these would be more qualitative in nature and include measures such as introduction of water features or recommendations for installing features that would encourage existing local wildlife onto the site where appropriate. And this is totally up to the ecologist and what they feel is appropriate. And then the second credit assesses the percentage increase of biodiversity net gain achieved by the project. And there are 4 different thresholds, as shown in the slide, for achieving credits. So the criteria is similar to before, with the exception of BNG thresholds have been revised to align with the statutory BNG requirements. So now it's starting at 10% for 1 credit. I think previously you got 3 credits for 10% net gain. And we've introduced a new methodology for sites with a baseline of less than 0.1 biodiversity units. We had a number of queries on how this should be accounted for in the previous scheme, as the statutory biodiversity metric either throws up an error message, or you get a huge percentage increase for doing very little. So our new method is based on an increase of biodiversity units rather than a percentage increase, and was developed by a consultancy for work that they're doing with several London boroughs. We've also now included an allowance for off-site enhancement and creation, and this is to allow ourselves with statutory requirements in England, as previously all measures would have had to have been implemented on site. So now you can use off-site to achieve those thresholds. And then finally, the final issue is LUE 05, and this is long-term ecological management. And the prerequisite here is to have achieved at least one credit in the previous issue. So you can see that each issue is dependent on at least some aspect of the previous issues being achieved. And the reason this credit is linked is because we want projects to appropriately manage or maintain any enhancements that have been incorporated into the project. The requirement for the first credit is to have a section on ecology and biodiversity included as part of the tenant or building owner information supplied, to inform the owner or occupier of local ecological features, value, and biodiversity on or near the site. And they should also include plans for the incoming builder or owner or tenant to minimise the loss of planting during the establishment phase. For the second credit, we're asking for a landscape and ecology plan to ensure that the habitats are maintained and managed effectively to enable their establishment and to reach their full potential. Requirements include defined and allocated roles and responsibilities, procedures to monitor and review the ongoing implementation and effectiveness of measures, as well as maintenance and management plans for each habitat, including a maintenance schedule. The issue is generally the same, but some key changes are we've moved the requirements to monitor, review, and ensure mitigation enhancement measures are implemented during the construction and handover phase. They've been moved to LUE 03 as it better fits in that issue. I think this is one of the items that was deemed to be a bit repetitive. So that's been changed. We've also rewritten some of the requirements. I think some of them weren't as clear as they could be, so that's changed. And now we've got a requirement for the plan to cover at least 30 years, aligning with the statutory BNG requirements for the habitat management and monitoring plan. So now on to GN 34. So yes, finally the last thing is GN 41. This is the ecology assessment reporting template. So GN 41 can be used as a means to collate information and evidence for the assessment. It provides a template to help assessors narrate the information that's been generated during the project for the ecology assessment issues. And it comprises various sections and questions where the SQE should provide a summary of how the project has met the requirements of each set of criteria. And we've now introduced an evidence box into the GN, so ecologists can reference where the relevant supporting information can be found. The relevant additional supporting evidence is still required. Hi, yes, so I've put my email address there. That's the end of my presentation, but I'd love it if there were some questions. But I've also put my email address there if you want to get in contact at all with me. I'm always really happy to hear from ecologists, assessors, and any related anyone else related to who might work on land use and ecology section to get feedback on it. So yes, please do get in touch if you have any questions or comments. But now, yes, please feel free to ask some questions now as well.
Brilliant. Thank you, Tasmin. We have a question from Simon. He said, will the new GN41 form help to link the information submitted to how many credits are expected to be awarded? He found that the GN40 form didn't help in this regard.
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Yeah, so will the new form help to link the information submitted to how many credits are expected to be awarded? So I think he's asking if they will be linked together in some way.
Not as such. That's kind of up to the assessor to be looking to determine what the credits should be rewarded as a basis of that. We have got a new platform that's been released as part of our V7 launch, and I think that will also help with some of this. But no, we're not. There's not necessarily going to be any output in terms of how many credits would be achieved as part of that. But that's something interesting that we could look at doing. And also the GN41, it can be updated independently of a scheme update. So we can't really change the scheme too much between versions, but we can change guidance notes if there's feedback that states that would be an improvement on it.
Thank you, Tasmin. Greg's sent in a question as well. He says, thanks for the presentation. And you mentioned that enhancement needs to be on site for, in reference really to the BNG. So what defines site?
Generally our site would be the project boundary. So but we do also include zone of influence. This is kind of a little bit I mean I know that the definition does sometimes change, but we take the wider ecologist definition of a zone of influence. So I think generally it's easier to demonstrate on a site where maybe your actual project boundary is well, maybe there's a wider site boundary, but the project boundary is part of that. So maybe the developer will own land surrounding the site, and then that would perhaps be easier to demonstrate there where you've done enhancement measures. But we do also allow for the enhancement, we do also allow offsite now. But the no net gain has to be on site.
Thank you. Talking about offsite allowance, Nikki's asked, is it specified how the offset is achieved? So does it have to be in the land, the applicant's ownership, or can it be near the site, or can it be purchased from a habitat bank or statutory credits?
So we are following the statutory requirements. So so basically it's worked out according to how the statutory metric works. So we have the hierarchy that it's better for it to be on site, near site, and then but we will allow just from biodiversity banks as well. We'll allow that, yeah.
Perfect. We've got a couple of questions about the GN41 reporting template. Someone's asking about where they can access it. And this is Josh, and what BREEAM guidance documents are best to be referred to when completing it.
So the GN41 has not been published yet, neither of our technical manuals. We're expecting them to be launched later on in the summer. But so that you can't access them at the moment. But if you want to drop me an email, then I'm happy, once they've been published, I'd be happy to forward them on to people if they want to have a look at them.
And then we have another question saying GN41, it might be obvious, but could this only be used for version 7 and not previous versions like version 6?
Oh yeah, so the GN41 is just for version 7 because it has some of the updated information in there, and it'll also be used for our international schemes as well. So we've had to incorporate some of the criteria from there as well. We have also updated GN40, and GN40 is for all schemes that preceded version 7. So that will be, so we have done some updates to that as well, which include putting in an evidence box in that. So that should be a little bit easier to use as well.
With that landscape and eco plan, can one simply submit the documents produced for the BNG submission?
Yeah, that would probably be acceptable. I think so, as long as it meets the requirements, and I would imagine it would do. But yeah, you just need to double check that it meets the requirements.
Perfect, thank you. I don't know if anyone else has got any other questions. Oh, we've had another one just come in. Will the ecologist qualification still be required? And if so, will they still need to provide a verification letter as well as a GN41 to verify ecological reports that have been produced by different ecologists?
So yes, we would still, if a kind of non-suitably qualified ecologist, so a more junior ecologist, was completing the work, then we still need confirmation, and that's still possible that we're still happy to have that signed off by the suitably qualified ecologist. In terms of them providing a verification letter of them being suitably qualified, I think we still require that, but I'd need to double check about that. I think we've tried to remove some of the more I think now perhaps I think we've tried to remove some of the more onerous requirements, and we're trying to put a bit more trust in what people say, rather than like be suspicious of what people might be saying. So I think possibly they still need to provide some evidence that they're suitably qualified, but I'm not sure if we're being so hardline about it.
Okay. Is small sites metric still not acceptable for LE04?
It is acceptable, yeah. You can use that for LE04, yeah.
And then, oh, someone's missed where we can access the GN41 reporting template and the BREEAM guidance documents, but they're the updated versions and not quite available yet.
No, we had hoped that they would be ready by now, but unfortunately we've had a few delays in the program. So but we will be releasing later on in the summer, and yeah, I can yeah, if you want, you can follow me on LinkedIn or connect with me on LinkedIn as well, and I'll be updating things then when that happens, or alternatively just email me and I'm happy to send through links when they become available.
But you could always send them to us at SIEM, and then I can send them out to anyone who's booked on today.
Yep, I can do that, yeah.
We can do that. Great. And then we have someone else has said, sorry, Tasmin, I think you might have answered this already, but will off-site enhancements be measurable under LEO4 BNG credits?
Yes. So yeah, they will be. Yeah, that's correct.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I think we've come to the end of our questions, unless anyone's got a burning one to quickly add. Look. So, just give it a second, see if there's anybody else who's got any burning questions. And then we'll finish up there. Unless there's anything else you'd like to share with us today, Tasmin?
No, that's all. Thank you for listening.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much for joining us today and giving us a really good, thorough overview of the changes that are coming. And we look forward to seeing the new version shortly. So
Right.
thank you very much. Thanks
Thank you.
everybody for joining us today.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Take care now. Goodbye.